Hello, everyone. Thank you all so much for being here. My name is Bonnie, my pronouns are they, them, and I'm the Poetry Event Coordinator here at Brookline Booksmith. Today, it is my pleasure to host two wonderful poets, Liza Flum and Lauren Singer, for our third Thursday's Poetry Reading Series. Before I do introductions, I do have just a few housekeeping notes. Firstly, copies of these two beautiful collections of poetry are available for sale at the back counter over there. I encourage you to support the poets' work in whatever way you can, whether that means buying a book, following them online, saying nice things to them while you're here, and of course, being in this space celebrating poetry is a huge way to show support, so thank you. Also know that the event is being live streamed from this iPad right here. Hello to YouTube. Our audience should not be visible to our YouTube viewers, but if you don't want to be live on YouTube, just don't stand in front of the iPad and you'll be golden. Please keep your phones off or on silent while our poets are reading. And finally, we will have a Q&A followed by a signing at the end of the event. So hold any questions you have until the end, but definitely have them ready to go. As I mentioned, this event is part of a monthly reading series here at Brookline Booksmith, taking place on the third Thursday of every month. Our August lineup is going to be up on the website soon, so check out our website if you are a poetry lover and want to come back next month. Housekeeping out of the way, now it's time for introductions. Liza Flum's poetry has appeared in Agni, Narrative, Meridian, Washington Square Review, Lambda Literary, and Zocalo Public Square. She is a recipient of a Barbara Demings Artist Grant, and her writing has been supported by fellowships from the Saltonstall Foundation, the Vermont Studio Center, Aspen Summer Words, and the Kimmel Harding Nelson Center. Liza grew up in the San Francisco Bay Area, but studied as an undergrad nearby at Harvard. So welcome back. She holds an MFA in poetry from Cornell and a PhD in literature and creative writing from the University of Utah. Her book Hubbard came out from Omnidom this year, and it's her first book. So congratulations on its release, Liza, and thank you so much for joining us tonight. And Lauren Singer is the assistant judge of the Werble Flum Humor Poetry Contest and North Street Book Prize. She's a native New Yorker living in Western Massachusetts. An attendee of the New York State Summer Writers Institute, she's a graduate of Bard College at Simmons Rock and received her MSW at the University of Chicago in 2015. She has self-published 3 chapbooks and is a current attendant of Story Studio's Selective Novel in a Year program. In addition to her creative interests, Lauren works as a sex and relationship therapist and runs a private practice out of Northampton, Massachusetts. Her newest poetry collection, Raised Ranch, was published in April of this year by Game Over Books, which is an amazing local member press. So congratulations, Lauren, on your book as well. And thank you so much for joining us. Folks, I'm so excited to celebrate these two collections together. In Hubbard, Liza Flum explores sexuality, love, and reproductive choice and infertility in sonnets and expansive prose meditations that center and celebrate queer polyamorous families. In Raised Ranch, Lauren Singer uses humor and wit to delve into grief, divorce, childhood, aging, and death with an open heart and tender vulnerability. These two collections that we're here to celebrate are very different in their style and approaches, and yet, I think, are very united in their vulnerability, their candor, and their heart. We are so excited to have Lauren and Liza at the store. Everyone, please give them a warm welcome.
Hi everyone. Is this a good distance from the microphone? Okay. Well, thank you to Bonnie and Brookline Booksmith for having me, and I'm honored to read with Lauren tonight. I'm going to be reading from my collection, Hubbard. And the poems in this collection are thinking, as Bonnie said, about queer polyamory and the way that people having non-traditional kinship structures are sometimes almost invisible as we move through the world because we're not what people might expect to see, but sometimes highly visible because we're not what people might expect to see. And as I was thinking about that invisibility and visibility that I experienced, I settled on the image of hummingbirds. Which move so fast that they appear to us in glimpses and flashes and then disappear. But what's really interesting to me is that a hummingbird that you can't see is a hummingbird that is surviving because they have to move at this incredible velocity to consume enough nectar to survive. So that reframing of invisibility as something full of vitality was sort of the impetus of this book. I'm going to read the first poem in the book called Tableau. On the back porch of the faded ranch house, we watched hummingbirds at the sunny edge of the woods dive at each other, almost at us. Their loud, clicking singing made me flinch, then vanish in eucalyptus. You reached out to both of us and held my hand and your husband August's hand as I paused, briefly quiet. Eucalyptus leaves and wind settle first in one direction, then another. A hummingbird loses body mass each time it rests. It grows languid and breathless, nearly dies. So fast do its small reserves burn in torpor, and what I know to be good has a half-life and fades with disuse if it isn't always moving, seeking out new nectar. So thinking about that idea of invisibility and invisibility, I sometimes joke that the two imagistic poles of this book are hummingbirds and cemeteries. Hummingbirds because of their dynamism, and cemeteries because we can have glimpses of stable representations of our lives based on what we see on tombstones, but of course it's so limiting, right? So this is a cemetery poem. It's called Memorial to a Marriage, and it's based on this really gorgeous monument by Patricia Cronin, which is two women embracing in bed, and it's placed on a tomb. Memorial to a Marriage after Patricia Cronin. It must be their feet tangled past the hem of the blanket, a big toe pressed to the top of a pale carved foot, that make me pause, scroll back to this image. Two women embracing in marble, hair loose, eyes closed, their polished mouths smiling. I touch the picture and their bed fills the screen. Life crosses their likeness in this public cemetery. Grass brushes their pallets. A tree casts leaf dapple across their shoulders. And a little pool of rainwater gathers in the furrow between their bellies. I want to call you from the other side of the house. Look at this. Their bed is our threadbare blanket with blue flowers and flattened pillows. I can find us all over their particulars. One's chin and another's chest. My stomach, your hip. My shin against your shin. But you are reading, alone in your bath, in a cloud of your own breath, in a nakedness that doesn't include me. They exist. This marriage exists. What does it mean to carve living things in stone? 2002 to eternity. I have lived small eternities, my own dazzling afternoons on ferries, crossing cold waters at an iron railing, watching pine trees pass, just as you feel when you look on the river and sky, so I felt. I learned to leap across distance. I wished, I said, from your mouth to God's ear. And I have wanted to live behind that ear too, tucked like a flower in a fold of eternity. On my screen, a small leaf set sail across the water between their bellies, sallying along these sleeping lovers' shores. Didn't Whitman say queers should stand on the shoreline calling, I was, I am, to journeyers from the future as they sail past us in paper boats? I will, I do. What I can't have in life, I will have in death, the artist says. A marriage, seen. Is this what living in public means? And what is our life in public? We drop hands. You and I and August have no portrait or family name. In a million iterations of lords and ladies holding hands on their marble caskets, what will survive of us is almost nothing, still, maybe a glimpse. These brides' bodies are glittering, offset against grass. They establish themselves as the land. Oak leaves nestle between one's chin and another's chest. Their marble shoulders are freckled with acid rain. I want to shelter here, in their bed's visibility. They let us be seen while keeping our privacy. We leap from now to someday to escape. I go upstairs and find you in the water. I undress and climb in. We barely fit together, thigh to shin, knee to knee. Around us, ripples and concentric circles spread to the basin's edge and then return to us shimmering. We are what we were setting out to see. This next poem is not so much a love poem as an affection poem for a relationship I haven't seen in poetry very much before. It's a poem to the partner of my partner. It's called Poem to August. I feel strange writing this when I will go downstairs and see you in the kitchen offering me coffee. Is there really more to this than an open field where any two strangers might meet? Between us, tall grass in which there is something living, sparrows, mice, in summer fireflies. We share a place, love for the same person, each different. But does loving her give us common places to walk? Are we two people who have lived in the same city at different times? No, a person is not a city. Do two people in the same city find each other every day tending the same tree? Or two people see the same meteor? Or two people sitting together feel a small earthquake and meet eyes, fall silent as the brief shaking stops? Yes, I lived through it. We were both there. Like the lunch when our beloved exclaimed that she did not understand what was so great about that city, the one she had never visited. And we glanced at each other over our sandwiches, both smiling a little, almost laughing. That was her. You all are so kind, I'm not used to hearing applause. This next poem is called Model Home, and this is zeroing in on one of the driving impulses of the book, which is the desire to have a child in a radical kinship structure. Model home. Hummingbirds make nests of spider silk and lichen, which are tight-knit and tough, but can stretch open around bone and fluff to enclose growing hatchlings. If I had milk, if I had money, or could pluck the world of stretchable stuff, I would love giving some small bodies shelter. I have seen enough hummingbird nests to guess what it takes. From a distance, the nests seem made of flowers, but the lichens have no petals or pollen. They are as rough as scales or dried skin. And when the bird grows bigger, the spider silk tangles it in its nest, suspended and falling. Hanging on by a see-through thread is almost flying. This poem is called Nuptial Dive. A man and a woman jump from a plane on TV together, strapped to instructors, like babies on parents' chests. They fall face first through blue atmosphere, cameras catching their screams, then fields. In the landing zone, the man tries standing, tumbles on his back, then they kiss in the grass under lenses. These two in their dropped nest of parachutes, entwined arms. Love comes from falling, say love's manufacturers. But the hummingbird's nuptial dive is obsessive. He flies over the female again, raising her head, then he zooms, climbs 70 feet, plummets to hover above her crown. In the book on my lap, this flight is hand-drawn. X marks the female, treasure and cipher. I study the flight path. In the picture, it looks like a fish hook, and he rises as if he were a fish, caught, reeled in. Does the air burn him? What compels him? The bird flies up, yes, but is it also love that yanks him, or need? Is X glad to see him? Is she afraid? When I chose you, it felt like a jump into nothing. It was not to impress you. It was hardly choosing, like standing on the high dive. To return to our life happening below, I had to jump. I only remember how poorly I did it, the rough board under my toes as I stepped forward, how I fell alone, how the water lifted around me on impact like a veil. I never told you my grandmother was a trick diver. Her acts, disappearing mermaids. The secret, to stay submerged in an airtight chamber, counting to 100, then rise with a smile, arms spread amid ripples. Applause, over and over. I found the room underwater. Meet me there. A lover who has other lovers. I couldn't start the gas fire in our hourly hotel room. I tried to turn it on, knowing it was just the illusion of kindling. Fuel summoned by a button, and just as suddenly gone, logs fuzzy with dust. It's important to cultivate many sources of dopamine, pay visits to pleasures without lingering. I liked that fireplace. It promised to light all over from a dozen openings. Now, I can't stop imagining your body waxing in the borrowed light filling the cool hotel room, though I try to imagine Sarah sleeping or mornings spent writing or driving through snow, mouth still abraded from kissing. You swoop and shapeshift, but I'm still kneeling on the gray hotel carpet, pressing the same damn button. So I'll take us back to a cemetery. This poem is called Domestication, and it is inspired by a photograph of a Roman grave. Long jaw tipped toward a woman's chipped ankle bone, a dog curls her 26 ribs around a bowl of pink glass. This grave is love's evidence, that what lies at the foot still might rise and want a drink, that the owner might rise too and find herself walking dog heels to the land of the dead. The dog was deathless. They killed her the day her mistress died. So we hypothesize. What we know of love between species we learn from the bones. Some in middens, in trash heaps, bear the clear marks of human digestion. My own mother loves and takes in like this. She makes a dog's soft, dark coat her burying ground for human loneliness. I've learned her tactics. I hold my small dog in my lap when I read People magazine. I wanted my life to be about not just me, an actress says, holding a baby in her arms, her red smile expanding. I want expansiveness. In my arms, my dog's little body breathes and twitches in, I think, a running dream where he is alone. So this is another cemetery. This poem is thinking about the afterlife of love, the afterlife of our relationships, and the impetus for it is actually the Obergefell versus Hodge marriage equality decision. Part of that decision hinged on who can have whose name on their death certificate. So Obergefell was not able to have his name on his partner's death certificate, and he describes that as a state-imposed separation that he found hurtful for the rest of time. And I'm not married to my partner, and I know that I will not have her name on my death certificate or my name on her death certificate. And so this poem is sort of thinking about that, the afterlife that our relationship may have. It's addressed to moss covering a tombstone. So this poem is called I Sign a Marriage License with the Moss. Of course, you have sex in a puddle on this worn stone. Your sperm travels to an egg flung from a wet velvet mass of more moss. But you're also asexual by choice. You make more of yourself by breaking off new shoots. Though I won't get to choose, I hope you fuck your way across my name in the graveyard, as I did once, parked in an oak's shade by Chapel of the Chimes as Billie Holiday sang, "Love is just like a faucet." Now I barely think of that boy, but the view of Oakland past the graves was lichen blue. Beyond our car, deer bounded in pairs over the headstones as if death were no impediment, just a hurdle to vault. I was 17 and most of my life felt like nothing, but I wrote with a pen pressed so hard it scored the coming page with white words like names on graves, ground down to unreadable limestone divots. I know I will have a death certificate without my beloved named on it. She and I will be strangers in death, bound by our uninked vows. Moss, will you be my last marriage? When I have no one as my spouse, can I have you, making my name lush, wet, and swollen on my stone? I want you to retrace my chiseled name with a heavy fist, bringing letters to life. Stay pressed on me until you are crisp as pubic hair against the hand that tries to brush you away. When you are thin as drying, even when you are gray flakes across my name. Domestication. If you find a hummingbird, never wrap her in a cotton towel. When she breaks free, her claws, tangled in thread, will rip out. So the lost lover can't come home. So the bird hovers, maimed, and can't perch. Better shelter her in a shoebox lined with silk. This poem is called An Epithalamium. An epithalamium is a marriage poem, and as I was trying to write an epithalamium, I kept spelling it wrong, and I was spelling it as an epithelium. An epithelium, if you are a sciencey type of person, it's a one-cell thick membrane on algae, and I thought that was pretty cool. So this is a poem about that productive misspelling called An Epithalamium. This veil, one cell thick on the algae, exists just to leave. It detaches gently, then releases, scattering overgrown organisms. This is what the epithelium does. It frees the region of attachment from too much grip of things, parrotfish, kelp, and other invertebrates. The epithelium is less rigid than the cells it lives beside, and so it is often the site of breaking. As your hand lets go another hand to pick up what you need. The epithelium lives in pink coralline. Wherever tide meets sand, bend close to the rocks. A scattering of blushes, blushes, blushes. A gathering brightness we can't scrape off with tool or fingernail. Coralline live on every seabed stone, so common they are forgotten. On ships' hulls, angiosperms, tide pool basins, even cradling other coralline, until the epithelium softly shakes each one free. I'm going to read two more poems. This one is called Fire Crown. It's a little hard to read, so I'm going to do my best. It is a list of hummingbird names. Starthroat, barbthroat, firethroat, ruby throat, blossom crown, hermit, wood nymph, empress, silk, coquette, blue, black, rainbow, amethyst, white, belly, cinnamon-throated, mango, sungem, sapphire, tourmaline, glow, fiery topaz, emerald, jewel front, train bearer, golden crown, golden throat, metal tail, sickle bill, visor bearer, train bearer, helmet, crest, saber, wing, puff leg, velvet browed, black eared, white whiskered, rainbow bearded, sooty, scaly, tufted, sheer tailed, sapphire, mountain gem, snowcap, hill star, wood star. The last poem I'll read is called Still Life. Stunned in a man's palm, a hummingbird opens its wings, and they look unremarkable, pigeon gray. They once were too fast to look at, dragonfly gossamer. Now this bright body is a specimen. I thought I wanted to see a hummingbird frozen and splayed. My whole life I've had a bad memory for moving things, like faces. As a child, I would try to picture my parents with my eyes closed to summon an eyebrow, or a chin, but does loving mean looking well or trying? Sometimes I make my hands a picture frame to stay your living image. You're fast, overflowing my hand's aperture. I squint to keep you still. You can't have someone, you just go with them, you said, as you packed our bags, already going. Thank you. And it's my pleasure to make way for Lauren Singer.
Thank you so much for having me, and what an honor to follow you, Liza. What a beautiful collection. And thank you so much for having me here on Brookline Booksmith, and to Bonnie for putting this together. Raised Ranch, can you hear me? It's okay. Raised Ranch is really just an exploration of grief room to room. And it's the book is broken up into different rooms, so I'm just going to take you through the rooms of the house. I'm going to start in the eat-in kitchen. It's 5 o'clock somewhere. 1, you always know how to manage in a crisis. Don't think too hard about why that's true. Pockets full of gauze, an inherited knowledge of medicinal herbs. You take care of the wounded, of heart, of mind, of skin's abrasion. You have come to expect nothing of others. They will call on you and you will rush to tending. When you cry out in pain, you will hear only the echoing return of your own voice. In the woods, be mindful of the snare that knows you are coming. No one will rescue you once trapped. You wish you could become a solitary bear, protective of her spoils. You don't always need to share your only water. 2, but I want to be an albatross, not worn around the neck so much as free of burden. 3, I make dinner because that's what you're supposed to do. I fill the house with plants. I walk around the neighborhood. And in these hours of potent reflection reduced to flagellating self-indulgence, I find all the right songs to rip into my soft sides. I stay up too late. Ghosts on loop float above me, strung out like garlands, and I'm sorry for everything I've ever done and haven't done yet. Morning before work. I put butter on the cornbread, even though there is butter already in the cornbread. How old was I when I learned to equate decadence with shame? Someone must have taught me that. I eat it at the window, the squirrels in the tree outside collecting black walnuts, dropping their considerable husks from great heights, cracking them open on the ground in the frosty morning. Later, when I take out the dogs, I pay special mind to walk atop the shells. The satisfying crunch beneath my feet feels at least like a connection to something, if only the earth below me. In the trees, the squirrels munch their walnuts joyfully, chittering and chirping back and forth. They eat their fill and then some. I imagine they do not feel ashamed. Compost pile. You hurt my feelings and it makes me want to stop recycling. You don't care about me, so what does it matter if I let the fruit spoil in the fridge? You told me. You told me if you leave it on the counter, the flies will be relentless, so I put the bowl of pears and peaches in the fridge because I do everything I can to be better than I am and I forgot them anyway. What would you think of me taking them from the bottom shelf, all molded and ruined, tossing them right in the compost? To ripen and be overlooked, never tasted, you would say, what a shame. And really you would be saying, what a waste. What a waste you are. And I already know all of the bad things about me. You just say them with a sharper tongue, so they land a little heavier. And all I can think to do is whisper, pathetic, over and over and over to myself until I barely even realize that I'm doing it. Just a song I sing on loop, a daily affirmation. What a waste. It's not even a metaphor for anything. It's just rotten fruit and an empty bowl, a disappointed fly looming over the kitchen island, and how I just need someone to tell me that I'm good, that a bruised pear is still worth something so I don't lose myself completely in the spoil. Blended family. In my dream, I tell everyone who's ever hurt my feelings how much I love them, and they all leave me unread. I still feel exactly the same as when I was 17. I'm waiting for something to move me. Do people know how boring they are with their air fryers and their timeshares? I wish I could be boring. I wish I was someone's mother. I wish I wasn't everyone's mother. Maybe all it takes is a nice centerpiece for the dining room table and polished hardwood floors and a flipped colonial to be fully realized. Maybe I've been doing it all wrong, this spelunking into the void of meaning. Maybe I should buy myself a Vitamix and just give up. Going into the living room. This is called Dog-Hearted. I want to be shameless as my dogs, the way they look forlornly to the door and wait for you. I want to flop down on my belly and cry all longing and dejection when every car that passes is not your car, is not your arrival. To stare big-eyed out the windows, not understanding why you do not come anymore, to lap up my affections the way I thought you always would. Don't be stupid, I hear myself barking at them when they whine, full of hope should the house stir or settle. But I pat their soft heads, wishing to take away this dull ache that we share in our despair. I like to think we are all remembering the same specific morning, making breakfast and wagging about in our contented abundance, blueberry pancakes and Leonard Cohen, right? But how could they know except to live in the deficit of their master's sadness, which is a language we all understand together. I fuss about the apartment and gather armloads of things from one room to another in a busy and unsorrowful kind of way. I do not pause for remorse. I do not still to be wistful. And if I do think of you, it is only for the dogs, who cannot know you're never coming back, who gaze stolidly at the unmanned door and rest their paws atop their sweet, soft heads. It's over, I try to console them. Don't be so sentimental. As for me, I do not miss you at all. Pack animals. I read a lot about my pets. The cat and I have sebaceous cysts at the same time, and the big dog has allergies, and the little dog is depressed. And if the functionality of your pets is a reflection of your own existence, then we are all failing to thrive. And every time I sit around for hours at a time crying for no reason, I want to apologize to them for not being at the park, or teaching them how to be better at tearing meat off a bone, or sniffing out the hunt, or being all that very much useful at anything, really. But we all sit at the window and watch the snow, and it's almost enough having them here in this great, big, lonely nothing. And when I lay my head on the big dog's neck, the little one sighs, and the cat lifts her head. It's almost enough, but nothing ever really is. Single bedroom. Nearsighted. The optometrist's office is a good place to burst into tears. If you sob softly enough to yourself, everyone will just assume you've had your pupils dilated. Every age-appropriate thing I've ever tried to do has ended in irreparable failure. Not built for marriage, can't seem to save any money, didn't keep the baby alive. Not to brag, but I'm also insufferable. Ask anyone. The receptionist at the checkout desk hands me a pair of those flimsy sunglasses before I leave and says, "These should make things a little easier." I decide to wear them for the rest of my life. The title of this poem is whatever the onomatopoeia is for the sound a dog makes when she's panting. The big dog fell off the bed, and now she thinks she cannot get back up. I want to explain to her that she can just jump on as she has always done, that next time does not guarantee another fall. But she is big and dumb and sweet and stands crying at the foot of the bed, too heavy for me to lift her. So I cry too because I can't explain it to her, because I don't want to sleep alone, and neither does she. If I were smarter, I would know what sort of metaphor for life this was, but my dog and I are just sad in this untranslatable wait for the night to be over, for her to forget what she couldn't do yesterday. Keeps falling off my shoulder, and I was in the bathroom. I was thinking about how it's kind of like a metaphor for being single, because there's a tie in the back of it, and when you wear a jumpsuit, you have to get naked to get on the toilet. It's really awkward. But also, if I want the front of the jumpsuit to stay up, I have to tie it tightly enough for it to stay up. But then when you get on the toilet, like, you can't get it off because it's too tight. And I'm like, if I still had a partner, these things wouldn't happen. And yeah, there's a poem in there somewhere. Naked on the toilet, I think is what it's called. This is called Skincare Influencer. In the dog days of grief, I have developed something like a near fixation on my skincare routine. I don't know what is normal in this new iteration of my life. Is it just approaching 40 to be so concerned with dark circles under the eyes? Or will the shadowy orbs dug deep into my bones give way to black holes that I might fall into if I'm not more careful? Will I get stuck inside this vacuum where I just keep discovering over and over and over that the baby isn't coming home alive? I shake it away. Do not go there, please. Stay here, here, here. I talk to no one in particular but my reflection. I pretend the woman in the mirror is just administering her nighttime tutorial. I listen to her. She seems to know what she is talking about. I'm safe with her. Everyone over 30 should use a retinoid before bed. She smiles at me, face slicked with squalene. There is something about the ritualized and tactile motions of applying creams and gels that keep the flashbacks at bay. Double cleanse, serums, moisturizer. Today I'll use the gua sha just for fun. Who doesn't love a little lymphatic drainage? When I rinse my face, I do not hear the beeping machines or remember emptying my breast milk in the sink or have to think too hard about how loud it's been inside the lonely forest of my own undoing. Don't forget to take breaks with your more abrasive products. Allow the skin to purge and the cells to regenerate. I roll a jade stone over my jawline, and the woman in the mirror pinches the plump apples of her cheeks and says, "This is how you know the niacinamide is working." The woman in the mirror knows what niacinamide does, but I do not. I want to believe her. It's something between self-care and not suicide. Tomorrow is not a retinol day, so by default, I'll have to live till Thursday. Nursery. Trophy wife. 1. At the coffee shop, I fantasize about unceremoniously laying out my baggage one suitcase at a time. I would open them proudly, take out my crimes like souvenir trophies and polish them before you, say, "This one here is divorce." Blow the particles off a dusty bauble, announce, "Oh, and here's old devoutly mistrustful." I'd line them up next to failed motherhood and adulteress, disorganized banshee and wears too much makeup. You would smile, charmed by my guile, and say, "Ah, insolent wino, I love a gal who knows herself," and trail off, gazing at me adoringly in total acceptance. The words forming in the back of my throat are shaped like "run" and "escape while you can" and "something something woman scorned." I don't want to do any more damage, and I can't rack up any more debt. Instead, I let you buy me a cookie and just tell you what you want to hear. You say, "I'm really excited to get to know you." 2. I think about how tonight my therapist actually said, "You're never the problem." And I wonder if I've been lying to her outright this whole time and never noticed I was doing it, or if I've honestly just charmed her into believing I'm not a walking pile of trite chaos in sensible shoes. 3. I bring home my trophies alone and display them on the mantle. I kiss the top of each one like it were a newborn baby's fragile crown, and I beam at them because it's the dignified thing to do, to look upon your sleeping babes and nurse them, nourish them, keep them alive. How much do I want to call you out? A little rolling out break. This is called Taco Tuesday. Because I'm ordering too many soft tacos for one person to eat alone, I pretend I'm on the phone with some non-existent lover at the drive-thru speaker and feign a conversation. What did you say you wanted, honey? 3 soft tacos? Sounds great, I'll get a couple for me too. See you at home. But we, the voice on the other side of this speaker and I, both know there is no honey. Any sweetness has completely left my life. 5 soft tacos in a row on a Tuesday. Eat a taco, he loves me. Eat a taco, he loves me not. Should the meaning of life ever reveal itself to be just a handful of intermittent moments of great revelry, let it be known that tonight I finally arrived to the following conclusion. Winter and I don't appear to get along very well. I've started to develop a pattern. These days I can't seem to achieve an orgasm without bursting into tears. I can't decide which is worse, crying in front of a stranger or getting myself off and doing it alone. What if I never make love to someone I care about again, and I keep having to fake intimacy while having real orgasms, and then watching the random man I've decided to take home curl his face in horror while I sob softly into his junk? I always want what I can't have, and I always want too much. Sometimes constant conflict is the closest thing to real passion that I have, but I keep spiraling out in the void of it. How can I be mad at so many people at once? It couldn't possibly be that everyone else is the asshole, could it? But April will come she will, and soon, nothing left to do but heal. Sometimes that feels harder. There we go, a couple more. Back in the living room, jumping around. This is called Winterized. Grief is an unruly minefield. I wish you hadn't left your snow boots in the living room. Also, I found the drawer of pictures that you left. You either couldn't bear to look at them any longer, so you blindly stuffed them in the bureau, or you knew that somewhere down the line, I would be mindlessly putting away old clothes and happen upon them and gasp, shatter into thousands of raw shards the way you must have felt when you shoved them in there. Is it too much to hold sometimes? How I know that if I called you, told you to come on home, you would? I don't want that kind of power, but sometimes the apartment is so empty and you are still everywhere in it, and it's not like I don't think of you. It's not like I wanted it to end this way. I think of how your mother must hate you now, and I know that she thought I would save you, but look at me. I have always been the disappointing type. I tried to warn you. You don't know how to be happy. You don't know what to do with it. That's what she said. I don't feel alive if I'm not at the hand of my own suffering, but once, when things were new, and I had so much hope for us, I watched you cut up the plastic rings from a 6-pack of beer, and your dedication to the task made me believe in something. Sea turtles, and us. I'm sorry I didn't hold up my end of the bargain. You know I was afraid of this. I recognize myself more in the ache of my own loneliness than I ever did with someone holding out for me to settle in. It is too trite, too unabashed to tell you that I never meant to hurt you. I didn't, but that doesn't change anything. It's just what people say when they don't want to face the anguish of their own betrayal. You hurt me too, but that doesn't feel right either. Just, I have this secret hope that one day, if we should happen upon each other at the grocery store, I'll remember the kind of yogurt that you liked with breakfast and hand it to you nonchalantly. All is forgiven. We smile and walk each other to the parking lot. In the fantasy, you are happy. I am still alone. In the meantime, I'm not sure what to do with these pictures in this drawer, so I turn them face down and gently pat their backs and tuck them in. I'm not sure if you'd even like that, but it's the least that I could do. Two more. This is, we're in the back porch now. This is called Like the Cat That Got the Cream. My cat and the weekday mailman have a relationship I have nothing to do with. It is nice how she makes friends without my intervention, has a life of her own to keep up. Like me, she hisses and bites, protests the attention of two available men, is haughty and tempestuous and loud. Unlike me, she needs for nothing and desires little. As such, her respect is well earned and her presence welcomed. Though she rejects the advances of overeager affection, she loves the mailman and waits for him dolefully on the weekends he has off, celebrates his Monday morning arrival with excited chirps of delight. From my desk, I peer out the window, and she, sunbathing on the porch, turns belly up to greet him as he approaches. I can imagine the hum of her purring as he kneels to stroke her soft fur, can hear him through the thin glass calling her sweet girl and cooing to her. He doesn't know I am watching, eavesdropping over their friendship like a greedy troll. If I were more interesting, my shortcomings would be poetic like my cat's. Feral, untamed, gleefully sadistic, woefully irreverent, skeptical of any blind gesture of love. We are alike in some ways, certainly, but even she knows how to let in the softness. My toxic traits are just a list of too much wanting. Jealous am I even of the little cat. The word thirsty hangs in the air like a magic coin, and though I tuck it behind my ear as often as possible, I know it is the truth. See, I don't know what it's like to unclench under an open palm and trust it to return without transaction. I am always only witnessing tenderness as an outsider. From this angle, it looks so effortless, and then, at once, completely out of reach. Thanks for having me. It's been so lovely. This is in the open concept section. It's called Gift. At a dive bar in Berlin, a Libyan man buys me an American drink, vodka and soda, and is relieved to hear that I speak English. It is February of 2020, and I don't know just how drastically my life's about to change. A tall man from the bar follows us out into the street and punches my companion in the eye for what appears to be no reason. Shaken and confused, I take him to my flat and press a popsicle to his swollen face. He is embarrassed, but happy to be here. Consider it a gift, I tell him. That shiner will always remind you of the night that you met me. In German, he tells me the word gift means poison. If that's not one giant premonitory red flag from the universe, I don't know what is. But we plant flags into the ground like seedlings to see what they will become. We are all colonists of our own demise. There's a lesson in there somewhere, but I should have known and not have offered my tongue to the droppers so fast.
As I welcome our poets up to our panelist table, let's give them both one more round of applause. And now it is our audience's time to shine. We have a Q&A, so don't be shy. If you have questions for our poets, raise your hand, I'll call on you. Feeling shy. I do have a question that I love to ask to kick us off for a Q&A, which is, well, I have a little bag of questions, but what does your writing process look like?
What is your sort of relationships in the craft, and how has it maybe changed since you've both been writing and from like maybe earlier in your career now?
I don't really have a good answer for that, except to say that I think that I started writing, well, I started dictating to my grandmother when I was like 2. The first poem that I wrote was about a centipede, and I wanted the centipede to have a lot of speakers. That's, and I think from then it was just like this within reach way to escape. And I think that's still true, of just like wanting to kind of like get out of my own head. So I used to, back in like the days of having online forums, like it was like pre-live journal, it was this website called pathetic.org. And the lovely thing about that, it was just like full of like, I'm gonna say like 15 to 30-year-olds to self-conscious to have live journals, but like just wanted to share poetry with each other. And we all sort of made a pact to write one poem every day and post it. And that created an ongoing process for me that I kept for a really long time. I can't do that anymore. I don't know how I did it then. But it got me into a practice of being able to just like sit down and take a prompt from my surroundings in a way that was really helpful. And now I write at Panera. I go to Panera like twice a month and sit in the back and like drink all of their free coffee, because I like, please go to Panera if you're a writer or you need to get work done, because you will never run into anyone you know, and they leave you alone forever. And it's like somehow also good people watching. So all the prompts live at Panera.
Amazing.
That's awesome. I think for me, my writing process really evolved over the course of writing this book. I started writing this book because I was cracking myself up. I was laughing a lot. I wanted to find a way to write about my own life and my relationships, and I was like, what if I wrote about queerness and polyamory and hummingbirds? And like, I'd never thought about hummingbirds in constellation with those things before, and it seems hilarious to me. And once I started laughing about it, I was like, okay, I have to write it. And I was really nervous to put those things together, so I started writing them all as rhyming sonnets. I don't know if you could hear listening to it that most of those were rhyming sonnets, which felt to me like I was kind of putting on a little bit of armor as I was entering this literary space. Like, no one can tell me that my life doesn't belong in a poem if it's a rhyming sonnet. And then once I was able to kind of break ground in that way, I was able to shed the sonnet and also move away a little bit from the hummingbird image, which opened up this space for me. But I still had to kind of trick myself into finding laughter and finding structures that I could write into. So there are a lot of like secret jokes and secret rhymes in the book that only I know about, that still created space for me to, you know, keep on breaking silences.
Lovely answer from both of you. Thank you. Do we have any other questions from our audience? It's okay to feel shy. Also, we don't want you to feel judged. Yeah, go right ahead.
I probably should know this, but I'm curious about the relationship between the two of you. Like, do you work together at all? Do you read each other's work? And then sort of separately, I'm curious about what you're reading and kind of what your influences, who your influences are.
I'm meeting Lauren for the first time tonight, and it's such a pleasure to encounter your work. I was so moved by the way that you're navigating both grief and humor in such a deft and profound way. So I wish I had known your work while I was writing this. And there are so many influences that were important to me in writing this book, but particularly Maggie Nelson, Maggie Milner, Kiki Petrosino. I could give you a whole reading list. Jenny Johnson, a lot of people who created space for the kinds of queer nature poetry that I think is especially exciting.
Well, I just want to echo what you said, Eliza. This is my first time meeting Liza, and I did Google stalk you before we met, and found some poems to read, and so I had a little bit of an idea of your work. But to hear you read it in person is something different and really lovely. And just listening to you talking about, like, obviously, like, grief and infertility and relationship, but also through the metaphors of, like, the home and the grave. Like, there's just, as you said, Bonnie, it's like very different work, but very compatible work. So we should just, like, go on tour together. As a rule, I have so much imposter syndrome. Like, I don't read a lot of poetry because it stresses me out. I'm like, why should I stop doing this? This isn't for me. But up to writing this book and putting it together, I was reading and listening to a ton of Louise Erdrich. Through my period of grief, I was like super immersed in Mary Oliver, which is like maybe the most cliche thing in the world, but it was a real comfort. I think I read the poem New Voyage like 4,000 times, and it kind of sparked a lot of the false starts to beginning the book. And then I'm in this like phase of my life right now where I'm listening to tons and tons of audiobooks. And I keep doing this thing where I will read like or listen to a really, really heady book. Like I just finished Martyr and Intermezzo and oh my gosh, what is Ocean Vuong's new book called? Not On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous, but the one that comes after. And then I will like intersperse that with like a really cheesy romance. So I just keep kind of like injecting lightness and darkness and kind of hoping for the best as both like a distraction from the chaos of the world that we're in right now, but also as like a potential inspiration to keep writing.
Thank you both for the recommendations. We do have time for one more question, if anyone has one. Yeah, go ahead.
I appreciate how you both like incorporate animals into your work, like your pets and the hummingbirds, and just like the interiority and the relationship and the symbolism of animals. And I'm curious just how you get to that place and like what you're thinking about when you're approaching them as subjects.
I'll start because that is something I'm so freaked out about. I think about it all the time.
Yeah.
Especially with hummingbirds, because when we try to capture them or pin them down, we basically destroy them. Like a taxidermy hummingbird is so grotesque and doesn't look at all like what we think about. So I was like, how can I begin to write about hummingbirds while honoring the fact that they are so dynamic and vital, and like I basically shouldn't be able to represent them. So the violence that I feared I might be doing by trying to represent a hummingbird was just constantly on my mind, and wanting to think about them without trying to possess them or like pilfer them. You know, there are people who steal hummingbird feathers and make like gowns out of them. You know, it was like, I don't want to be that lady. So I felt very uneasy, and that uneasiness turned out to be like an engine that I was using as I was thinking about the image.
Wow.
I feel like my answer has much less depth, but hearing that people make gowns out of hummingbird feathers makes, I looked at your face, that's my friend, and we both really care about creatures. It's interesting because a lot of the book came together during COVID, and I had like just gotten divorced, and I was living alone for the first time in a very long time in the middle of lockdown with 2 dogs and a cat, and we just got to know each other so well, and developed like a very unique language. And there were so many times where I knew exactly what they were communicating to me. The poem about I have a pit bull, her name is Gertie, and the poem where she fell off the bed and can't figure out how to get back up, like, we had like this moment of eye contact where she's like, yesterday this hurt, so I'm not doing this anymore. Like from now on, like it's all over. And we had like this like moment of connection where I was like, okay, you're not gonna use the stairs. I have stairs for you. You're not gonna use them. I'm really gonna like give you this, like this time and space. This is all we have in this moment. I'm gonna reteach you how to figure out how pain works. And to be fair, like they all have these like really incredible, unique personalities, and I feel like they just kind of dictated the poems to me. I feel like I was just a bystander to the imagery they gave me.
Wow.
What a delightful note to end on. Both of your creature inspirations. Thank you to Liza and Lauren for being here. Let's give them a whole round of applause. Here supporting poetry. Just some housekeeping. If you'd like to buy a book, you can do so at the back counter. Our authors will be here to sign copies. And otherwise, thank you again for coming through, and I hope you have a wonderful evening.